What if I told you that every time you watch a horror movie, every time your pulse spikes, your breath shortens, and your skin crawls, your brain thinks it's saving your life? That the fear you feel isn't weakness, but evolution applauds you for surviving the impossible. We crave horror, not because we're broken, but because somewhere deep inside, we remember what it feels like to be prey. Welcome to the nightmare. Tonight, we're not just watching fear. We're dissecting it. Every night, millions of people willingly invite terror into their homes. A mother watches The Conjuring while her child sleeps down the hall. A teenager scrolls through real possession clips on TikTok. A man walks into a haunted house attraction, knowing he'll scream and still pays for it. Why? Why do we seek what every instinct tells us to avoid? A 2023 survey by the Global Media Institute found that horror viewership has doubled in the past decade. That's not just entertainment. That's a movement. Fear, it seems, has become our favorite addiction. But the answer isn't just cultural. It's biological. It's ancient. And it's a little disturbing. Before horror was a genre, it was survival. Our ancestors didn't sit around campfires to relax. They did it to stay alive. The sound of a branch snapping in the dark wasn't spooky ambience. It was a signal, run or die. That wiring never left us. It only evolved. Now, the monsters have changed. They're on our screens, not in the bushes. But our brains, they can't tell the difference. Every scream, every shadow, every flicker of danger on screen, it lights up the same parts of the brain that once saved us from predators. And deep down, we love it because surviving fear, even fake fear, feels like winning. Let's go back, not to the 1980s of slasher flicks, but 100,000 years earlier, a time when fear meant everything. Imagine you're alone in the dark plains. You hear a rustle. Your heart pounds. Your pupils widen. Blood rushes to your muscles. That's the fight or flight response. The oldest software running in our minds. Every time you watch a jump scare, you're activating that same ancient code. Except this time, there's no lion, no predator, just dopamine. Because when the danger ends, your body rewards you. A chemical applause for staying alive. That's why you laugh after a jump scare. Why do you smile after screaming? You didn't just get scared. You survived. And for a moment, you're not a fragile human scrolling your phone. You're a hunter who escaped death. But what happens when the line between safe and real blurs? When a mind forgets it's only pretending? That's where horror stops being a thrill and becomes something else. Let's look inside the mind, the chemical chaos that happens when fear hits. First, adrenaline, the body's war drum. It sharpens senses, quickens heartbeat, makes you ready to fight or flee. Next, cortisol, the stress chemical. It tells your brain something's wrong. And then, endorphins, the comforting lie, the body's way of saying, you're okay. You lived. Together, they form a strange cocktail. Terror mixed with relief. It's the reason people line up for roller coasters. Why true crime podcasts dominate charts. Why we whisper, oh my God, after every horror twist, but still hit the next episode. The paradox of horror isn't the fear. It's the pleasure in fear. Our brains are wired to test limits. Horror gives us that playground, a controlled environment where we die 1,000 times and wake up fine. But sometimes, something lingers. Some viewers report hearing whispers after certain movies. Others claim shadows move in the corners of their rooms. Science calls it pareidolia, the mind misfiring under stress. But what if that's not a malfunction? What if horror doesn't just trigger the brain? What if it invites something else inside? Every horror fan thinks they can handle it. They say it's just a movie, It's not real. But what if your fear feeds something real? Psychologists at Oslo University found that people who watch horror regularly develop a higher tolerance for anxiety, but also report more nightmares than the average person. It's as if the mind, once open to darkness, keeps the door slightly ajar. Maybe that's why we keep coming back. Not to be scared, but to feel something bigger than ourselves. Some crave control. They watch to face what they can in real life. Others crave chaos. They want to feel powerless safely. Every scream is a confession. Every jump scare is a mirror. And every horror story, even this one, tells us something about who we really are. Because deep down, we all want to see what happens when the lights go out. There's a point in every horror story when the audience asks, is this still fiction? In 2019, a study of haunted attractions found that 12% of visitors experience hallucinations during the event. Sounds, shapes, whispers that weren't part of the show. The human brain, under fear, creates reality. It doesn't know what's real. And what's your suggestion? That's why ghost sightings spike after people watch possession movies. That's why listeners of The Nightmare sometimes write saying, I heard your narrator whisper my name. Maybe it's imagination. Maybe it's something to answer back. Because fear isn't just emotional. It's energetic. It changes brain waves, skin conductivity, heart rhythm. When we collectively feel fear, we create resonance, a pulse that echoes between us and whatever watches back. Maybe horror isn't a window. Maybe it's a mirror. And maybe, when you stare long enough, something on the other side stares back. In neuroscience, they call it benign masochism, finding pleasure in what should cause pain, like eating spicy food or jumping from a plane. But horror? It's different. It's not just risk. It's a ritual. When you dim the lights, press play, and whisper, I can handle this. You're performing an ancient ceremony, rehearsing your own survival. It's why horror fans often recover faster from trauma. They practice panic and safety. They've trained their brains to find calm in chaos. But the line between simulation and summoning is thin. Many horror creators report the same phenomenon. Electrical malfunctions during edits, audio distortion on specific lines, files that vanish and reappear renamed. Coincidence? Or something else? Feasting on the attention we give it? Because fear, like faith, is a form of energy. And energy never really disappears. We used to tell horror stories to scare each other. Now, we tell them to understand ourselves. The next generation of horror isn't about blood. It's about the truth. Psychological horror ain't driven nightmares. Interactive experiences that adapt to your heartbeat. They're all coming. But no matter how advanced it gets, fear will always lead us back to the same place. Ourselves. We don't watch horror because we love monsters. We watch it because we are them. The brain that screams during a ghost scene is the same brain that imagined ghosts into existence. The shiver you feel when you hear footsteps in an empty house. That's evolution whispering, remember me. And maybe, just maybe, fear isn't something to escape, but something to listen to. So why do we love horror? Because it reminds us we're alive. Because it tests the limits of what our minds can endure. Because fear, when faced, becomes power. But don't mistake that power for safety. Every scream you release, every chill that crawls up your spine, feeds the darkness that waits patiently on the other side of understanding. And when the next horror begins, and you lean closer to the screen, just remember, your fear keeps something alive. And it's not just you. You wanted to know why you love horror. Now you do. Because fear doesn't chase you. You chase it. And sooner or later, it catches up. This is The Nightmare. Sleep well. Subscribe. if you're brave enough, because the next story might be yours.